to senators, to congressmen, the president. They don't listen to me in the private sector. It doesn't matter how many things I get right. I can get call after call after call right. I've been right as many times as Bernanke and Geithner and Greenspan and Henry Paulson were wrong. But no one really cares as a private citizen. Maybe if I'm in the U.S. Senate, maybe they'll listen to me. Maybe they'll have to. Maybe if I can stand in the Senate like I'm standing here and filibuster until I drop dead, maybe I can stop them from spending our money and stop them from debasing our money and doing all the things that are undermining the economy. And a lot of people run the Republican Party, and they promise, well, I'm going to give you tax cuts. Tax cuts mean nothing unless we cut government spending. What we've had some marginal tax cuts. I want significant tax cuts. We're overtaxed in this country. But unfortunately, we can't cut taxes until we slash government spending. Because the burden of government is not what it taxes, but what it spends. And we need to dramatically reduce spending. That's the only stimulus that will work, is to reduce the burden that government places on the economy. We need to restore sound money. We need much higher interest rates, so we'll have savings in this country. We can't have a society where we don't save. Economies grow because of savings and investment and production. They don't grow because of borrowing. They don't grow because of spending. Those things are only possible because we save, because we invest. For the last decade or so, we've been living off the charity of the rest of the world. We've been consuming what the Chinese produce. We've been investing what the Japanese save. That dynamic can't continue, because the crisis that is currently being created, and whenever the government has a stimulus, the effect is a disaster. The stimulus in 2001 and 2002 caused a housing bubble. And when it burst, the payback is the consequence. If we would have taken our medicine in 2001 or 2002 and had a more severe recession then, we'd be in much better shape right now. It'd be night and day. The disaster that is currently being created by the government is going to take the form of a currency crisis. And the currency crisis is going to dwarf the financial crisis. Because the currency crisis is going to mean that the value of our money, the dollars that everybody has saved, that everybody is earning in wages, are going to collapse. And that's going to send the price of everything that ordinary Americans need to buy through the roof. The price of food, the price of energy, the price of basic necessities, product prices are going to go through the roof. And then long-term interest rates are going to go with them. And if people think we have problems now with 10% unemployment, and it's actually 17% if you calculate it the correct way, if people think it's bad now, imagine when unemployment is significantly higher, and in addition to that, both unemployed and employed people are looking at double-digit inflation, double-digit interest rates, and I don't know what the first digit's going to be. It probably won't be a 1 when it comes to inflation. We're going to see a significant rise in the cost of living. And that is how every American is going to pay for these failed government programs. When President Obama says only the rich are going to pay for all this spending, it's not just the rich, it's every working American whose wages are going to be debased, whose savings are going to be debased, because there's no free lunch. They're not raising taxes anywhere near enough to cover all this spending. We're spending trillions and trillions of dollars. Where's it going to come from? They're creating it out of thin air. They hope we can borrow it from China or borrow from Japan, but they're going to stop. They're figuring this out. I mean, the Central Bank of India just bought 200 metric tons of gold. More central banks around the world are buying gold because they know the dollar's going to collapse. The Chinese government has got a program now to encourage their citizens to buy silver. They know what's going on. They are not going to subsidize this economy much longer. And when they stop, we need somebody in Washington who understands that the Fed can't monetize this, that the government can't try to stimulate our way out of this. The only real solution to this problem involves the politicians that are in office now to do the exact opposite of everything they've been doing. They need to throw all of their political instincts out the window and actually act in the long-term interest of this country. And that means they have to level with the American public, tell them the truth about the mess that their policies put us in. And the only way we're going to get out of it is to let the market function. George Bush, in the waning days of his presidency, said that he needed to abandon capitalism in order to save it. And everybody said, times are tough. We can't afford principle now. We need government. Well, you can't abandon your principles when times are tough. We've never needed capitalism more than we need it right now. You know, when the economy is prosperous and things are good, we can afford all the stupid things that government do. But we can't afford it now. We're broke. After years and years of reckless monetary and fiscal policy, the nation is broke. Our industry has been gutted and hollowed out. We're uncompetitive. We've squandered our savings. We spent trillions and trillions of dollars of borrowed money. You know, we're in debt up to our eyeballs. We need to roll up our sleeves and we need to get back to work. And that's not going to happen with the current administration. It's impossible to happen. It's only going to happen if we can shrink government, so we can lower taxes, repeal regulations, and restore a free market. The free market never would have created this mess. The financial mess was a result of government policy, government moral hazard, cheap money, and it's not going to be solved with more of the same. I mean, you hear the politicians talk about it. They think the way to get out of debt is to borrow more money. If you're broke, you go out and spend. But they don't care. All they care about is can they get the GDP to go up. They don't care about how many trillions of dollars into debt we go to get 1 or 2% of phony GDP growth, or what the consequences are a year or two down the line. No, they don't care. All they want to do is get reelected. Well, I'm standing here, you know, I didn't want to get elected in the first place. I'm happy being a private citizen. I have a good living. I have a nice company. If the politicians were doing their jobs, I wouldn't have to go run for the United States Senate. But unfortunately, they haven't done their jobs. They've undermined our economy. They destroyed it. They brought it to the brink of disaster. I look at it, we're in this car, we're driving towards the edge of a cliff. And I want to go to the Senate and try to wrestle the steering wheel and try to turn the car before it goes over. And I don't even know if I'll be able to be successful, but I'm going to give it a shot. You know, I know that a lot of senators, when they get to the Senate, I mean, first thing they do is they try to figure out how they can stay there, how they, you know, they want to follow the leadership, they want to do the right thing, get on the right committee. They spend 90% of their time raising money so they can get reelected. I'm not going to do any of that. I'm not going to play ball. I'm not going to the Senate to fit in. I want to shake things up. I don't like the leadership of the Republican Party. They've led us in the wrong direction. They sold out their principles. They're no different, in most cases, than Democrats. They're huge spenders. I mean, look at George Bush. He didn't veto anything in his whole first term. He was a bigger spender than Lyndon Johnson, yet he claimed to be a conservative. What was conservative about that? The only thing he conserved was big government. I don't want to do that. I want to do what Ronald Reagan promised to do, or Barry Goldwater. Actually shrink government. Because at this point, if we don't do it, the crisis is going to be phenomenal. And I am very afraid as an American. You see, whenever there's a crisis, I got to be running out of time. Whenever there's a crisis, we lose our liberty.